Hey there, English learners. Welcome back to Easy English Class.
It's 2 a.m., and your roommate is blasting music again. Your dishes have been sitting in the sink for 3 days because they never clean up. The rent was due yesterday, but they haven't paid their share. Sound familiar?
Living with roommates is one of the most common experiences for young adults, international students, and professionals. But nobody teaches you how to navigate these situations in English. When conflicts arise, you need more than basic vocabulary. You need diplomatic phrases, boundary-setting language, and problem-solving conversations that preserve relationships while protecting your peace of mind.
Today, we will equip you with the communication tools to handle any roommate situation with confidence and clarity. From setting expectations to resolving conflicts, you'll learn how to speak up for yourself while maintaining a harmonious living environment.
This is your English learning podcast to help you navigate real-life situations with confidence and practical communication skills.
You know, Marco, roommate issues are something almost everyone deals with at some point, but it's one of those topics that can feel really awkward to discuss, especially in a second language.
That's so true, Erica. When you're living with someone, small problems can become big problems really quickly if you don't address them properly. And finding the right words in English to be direct but not rude can be challenging.
Exactly. There's this balance between being assertive enough to solve problems, but diplomatic enough to keep living together peacefully.
The good news is that most roommate issues are actually quite common, and there are proven communication strategies that work across cultures.
By the way, I'm Erica.
And I'm Marco. This is Life Skills English, where we help you handle everyday situations that textbooks never cover.
Today, we're tackling roommate problems and solutions, from preventing issues before they start to having those difficult conversations that can save your sanity and your living situation.
Whether you're dealing with a messy roommate, money issues, or just need to set some boundaries, we've got you covered.
So, Marco, let's start with prevention. What are some ways to avoid roommate problems before they even begin?
I think the biggest thing is having clear conversations up front about expectations. Before you move in together, discuss the practical stuff: cleaning schedules, guests, quiet hours, shared expenses.
That's so important. It might feel awkward to discuss these things when you barely know each other, but it's much more awkward to fight about them later.
You can say something like, I think it would be helpful if we discuss some house rules so we're all on the same page. What are your thoughts on guests staying over? Or, how do you usually handle cleaning responsibilities?
Those questions open up the conversation without being confrontational. What about financial discussions?
Money conversations are crucial. You might say, let's talk about how we'll handle shared expenses like utilities and groceries. Or, what's the best way for us to split bills each month?
Being upfront about money expectations prevents a lot of problems down the road. Now, what happens when problems do arise? How do you approach your roommate about an issue?
The key is addressing things early, before you get really frustrated. Use I statements rather than you accusations. Instead of, you're so messy, try, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by the kitchen situation. Could we talk about a cleaning system?
That's much less likely to put them on the defensive. What are some other diplomatic ways to start these conversations?
You could say, hey, I wanted to chat about something. Do you have a few minutes? Or, I've been thinking about our living situation, and I'd love to get your input on something.
Those approaches show respect for their time and frame it as collaborative rather than confrontational.
Let's talk about specific common problems. Cleanliness is probably the biggest source of roommate conflict. How do you address this?
For kitchen issues, you might say, I notice the dishes have been piling up. Could we figure out a system that works for both of us? Rather than, you never do the dishes.
For general cleanliness, try I'd like to establish a cleaning schedule. What chores do you prefer to handle? This gives them choice rather than just assigning tasks.
What about bathroom issues? That can be particularly sensitive.
You could say, I'd appreciate if we could keep the bathroom tidy for both of us. Or, could we establish some bathroom etiquette that works for everyone?
Those phrases address the issue without getting too specific about embarrassing details.
Now let's tackle noise problems. This is especially common in shared spaces. How do you bring this up?
You might say, I'm having trouble sleeping, studying because of noise levels. Could we discuss quiet hours? Or, I'm pretty sensitive to sound. Would it be possible to keep music/TV lower after a certain time?
The key is explaining the impact on you rather than criticizing their behavior. What if they're having loud phone conversations or video calls?
You could say, I noticed you take a lot of calls in the living room. Would it be possible to take some of those in your room? I'm trying to concentrate out here.
That's reasonable and specific. What about guest policies? This can be a major source of tension.
If guests are staying too often or too long, you might say, I want to make sure we're both comfortable with the guest situation. Could we establish some guidelines about overnight visitors?
Or if someone's partner is basically living there, I feel like we should discuss the living arrangement since name is here most nights. How do you think we should handle this?
Those conversations acknowledge the reality while opening discussion about solutions.
Let's address money issues, which can be really awkward but super important. How do you handle a roommate who's late with rent or utilities?
For first time issues, you might say, Hey, just checking. Did you get a chance to send your portion of the rent? Or, the electric bill came in, when works for you to settle your part?
Those are gentle reminders that give them the benefit of the doubt. But what if it becomes a pattern?
For repeat issues, you need to be more direct. I'm concerned about the late payments. This puts me in a difficult position with our landlord. Can we figure out a system that ensures bills are paid on time?
What if someone's using way more utilities than their fair share? Like leaving lights on constantly or taking hour-long showers?
You could say, I noticed our utility bills are really high. Could we all try to be more mindful about usage? Or, I'm trying to keep our electricity costs down. Would you mind being conscious about lights and appliances?
Those approaches address the issue without pointing fingers at specific people.
What about food and kitchen boundaries? This is another common source of conflict.
If someone's eating your food, you might say, I've noticed some of my groceries have been used. Could we establish some guidelines about shared versus personal food?
Or if you want to share some things, but not others. I'm happy to share basics like salt and oil, but I'd prefer to keep my other groceries separate. Does that work for you?
For kitchen space issues, try the fridge is getting pretty crowded. Could we figure out a system for organizing our stuff?
What about personal space and boundaries? How do you address a roommate who's too invasive or doesn't respect privacy?
You might say, I really value having some personal space and downtime. I hope you understand if I'm not always up for hanging out, or I prefer to keep my room private. Thanks for understanding.
Those set boundaries without being harsh. What if they're going through your belongings or entering your room without permission?
That requires a more serious conversation. I need to talk to you about privacy boundaries. I'm not comfortable with anyone going through my things or entering my room without asking.
Being direct is important for serious boundary violations. Now, what happens when you've tried talking but problems persist?
Sometimes you need to escalate the conversation. You might say, "We've discussed this a few times, but the issue is continuing. I need to see some changes, or we'll need to consider other options."
That's firm, but gives them a chance to correct the behavior before more drastic measures.
What about involving landlords or RAs? When is that appropriate?
For serious issues like safety concerns, noise violations, or lease violations, you might need outside help. You could say to your roommate, I don't want to involve the landlord, but this situation needs to be resolved.
That gives them one last chance to handle it directly.
Let's talk about the language of compromise. How do you find middle ground when you disagree?
Use phrases like, "What if we tried?" Or, "Would you be open to?" Or, "I'm willing to," if you could.
For example, what if we alternate weeks for cleaning the bathroom? Or, I'm willing to be more flexible about noise if you could keep it down after midnight.
Those show you're willing to give something to get something.
What about when emotions are running high? How do you stay calm and productive during difficult conversations?
If you're feeling angry, it's okay to say, "I'm feeling frustrated right now. Could we continue this conversation later when I've had time to cool down?"
Taking a break prevents saying things you'll regret. You could also say, this is important to me, so I want to make sure we both feel heard.
What if your roommate gets defensive or angry during the conversation?
Stay calm and acknowledge their feelings. I can see you're upset. That wasn't my intention. I just want us to find a solution that works for both of us.
If they're not willing to have a productive conversation, you might say, "Let's take some time to think about this and talk again tomorrow."
Sometimes people need space to process before they can engage constructively.
Let's address some specific scenarios. What if you have a roommate who never cleans but gets angry when you bring it up?
You might try, I understand cleaning isn't your favorite thing. It's not mine either. But we both live here, so we need to figure out a fair system. What would work best for you?
That acknowledges their perspective while still insisting on a solution.
What about a roommate who brings friends over constantly without asking?
You could say, "I love that you're social, but I'd appreciate a heads up when you're having people over. Sometimes I need the common areas to be quiet."
Colon. What if someone's lifestyle is just fundamentally incompatible with yours? Like they're a night owl and you're an early riser?
Focus on specific impacts rather than lifestyle criticism. I go to bed early for work, so I'd really appreciate if you could use headphones for TV after 10 p.m.
You're not asking them to change their lifestyle, just to be considerate of yours.
What about roommates who don't pay their fair share of shared expenses beyond rent?
You might say, I've been covering most of the household supplies lately. Could we either alternate buying them or split the costs?
Being specific about what you're asking for makes it easier for them to comply.
Let's talk about moving out situations. How do you handle those conversations professionally?
If you're moving out, give plenty of notice. I wanted to let you know that I'll be moving out at the end of our lease. We should start discussing plans for finding a replacement or ending the lease.
If you want them to move out, that's much more delicate. You might need to involve the landlord, especially if you're all on the lease.
What about subletting and roommate searches? How do you communicate those needs?
For finding new roommates, you might say, "What qualities are most important to you in a roommate?" Or, "Should we interview potential roommates together?"
Getting on the same page about roommate criteria prevents conflicts later.
Let's discuss cultural differences. How do you navigate different cleanliness standards or social norms?
Address it directly but respectfully. I know we might have different approaches to cleaning, guests, noise, but could we find a middle ground that works for both of us?
Acknowledging that differences exist makes it easier to find compromise.
What about language barriers with non native English speaking roommates?
Be patient and clear. "Let me make sure I understand correctly." Or, "Could you help me understand what you mean by?"
Clear communication prevents misunderstandings that can escalate into bigger problems.
Let's talk about emergency situations. What if your roommate is genuinely unsafe, drinking too much, bringing dangerous people over, or threatening behavior?
Safety always comes first. Don't try to handle serious safety issues alone. Contact your landlord, RA, or local authorities if necessary.
You might say to the roommate, "I'm concerned about specific behavior. This makes me feel unsafe in our home."
But if they're not receptive to that conversation, prioritize your safety over being polite.
What about mental health situations? What if your roommate seems to be struggling emotionally?
You can express concern. I've noticed you seem to be having a tough time lately. Is everything okay? But remember, you're not responsible for solving their problems.
If their mental health issues are affecting the living situation, you might need to involve counseling services or family members.
Let's address the endgame scenarios. When is it time to just end the roommate relationship?
If you've tried direct communication, compromise, and involving third parties, but problems persist and affect your well being, it might be time to move on.
Some red flags include refusing to communicate, intentional disrespect of agreements, illegal activities, or making you feel unsafe.
How do you handle the logistics of ending a roommate situation?
Review your lease carefully. Give proper notice. Try to handle security deposits and final bills fairly, even if you are frustrated with them.
Document important communications and keep receipts for shared expenses during the transition.
What about maintaining the relationship after you're no longer roommates?
Sometimes taking space from living together actually improves the friendship. Other times, the damage to the relationship is too significant.
Either outcome is okay. Not all roommate relationships are meant to become lifelong friendships.
Before we finish, let's talk about learning from roommate experiences. How do you use these situations to become a better communicator and housemate?
Reflect on what worked and what didn't. Did you address problems early enough? Were you clear about your expectations? Did you listen to their perspective?
Each roommate experience teaches you more about your own needs and communication style.
What are your final tips for someone about to live with roommates for the first time?
Be proactive about communication. Don't let small issues become big problems. Remember that compromise goes both ways.
Set clear expectations early, but also be flexible. Living with people requires patience and understanding.
And remember, most roommate problems are solvable with good communication and mutual respect.
The skills you learn from navigating roommate situations will serve you well in all kinds of relationships and living situations.
And that brings us to the end of our roommate problems and solutions episode. We hope this helps you handle any living situation with confidence and clarity.
Remember, you have the right to feel comfortable and safe in your home. Don't be afraid to speak up for yourself respectfully.
Most people want to be good roommates. They just need clear communication about expectations and problems.
Practice these conversation techniques and remember that every roommate situation is a learning experience.
Thanks for listening to Life Skills English. Keep communicating, keep growing, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Here's to peaceful and harmonious living situations for everyone. Yeah.
Take care.